G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We're back again for another weekly edition of Footy Tips. We're here for round 5 of the 2023 AFL season. If you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. That'll be much appreciated. And let's kick it off with my tips from last week. Rightio, my tips from round 4, the previous week. We got a 7 out of 9. I'm back, baby. We're going to be back up to the top this year. Finally, a good bloody score. About time. But anyways, yeah, it's pretty successful. Got the Brisbane tip right, felt bullish about them at home against the Pies. They got it done pretty convincingly, their forward half use, excellent. Got the tip right with the Blues, and to be fair, to North's credit, they really put them to the sword up to half time, but it was just the 𝐓𝐴 link that saw them get home in a convincing fashion. Bullish on Adelaide, thought they'd get it done at home in convincing style. They got it done in convincing style. Went with the Tigers in a close one, to be fair. I thought this game would be a really 50-50 one. I just felt their forward half, repeated entries, their use could be a bit better, a bit more damaging. But the Bulldogs, they were awesome in the clearance game. They really smacked them. The likes of 𝐓𝐴 and Norton were superb as they got a very close win in the end. Went with St Kilda over Gold Coast. I thought, Gold Coast would play a bit better, but up to halftime, or past halftime, absolutely poor. Whilst the Saints moved to 4-0, they were looking quite sweet. Went with the Sydney tip at home. I did say this was going to be a close one because Port always play good footy against the Swans. Crazy game. Sydney, had the more inside 50s, failed to capitalise, in Port. A truly resilient win, and dramas, of course, near the end. They snuck on. Won by 2 points. Essendon at home, felt confident. Giants, again, just a very mediocre team to watch at the moment, whilst Essendon could have won by more. Kicked pretty inaccurately. Easy tip, really, with the Demons away. A bit of a decent game, probably up to half time, but they just flexed their muscles from the second half onwards. And finally, the Cats. Well, I thought this game was going to be close, but they are now lifted off in 2023. A huge win over Hawthorn that second half onwards. I think it was like 20 inside or 30 inside 50s to 1 that third term. They seriously mean business this season. So yeah, 7 out of 9. Hopefully we could go maybe a step better this week. Rightio, my tips for round 5. Now remember, this is going to be Gather Round upcoming this week, so all these games will be in Adelaide. Well, only going to be really in 3 stadiums: Adelaide Oval, Norwood, and there's one game at Adelaide Hills where I searched up. It has about 5,000 people in capacity, so yeah, going to be an interesting game to watch that one. We'll kick it off though with the first primetime game, Adelaide hosting Carlton at Adelaide Oval. Instantly, when I look at this matchup, the Blues, Adelaide Oval, it doesn't mix so well. I think the last time they won there was quite some time. I actually think, have they won at Adelaide Oval? If they have, it was from some time ago, probably 2014 or 2013. They just don't play well there. That's just what I'm generally trying to put out. But yeah, head to head, Adelaide are in some good form. And seriously, they could probably be 4-0 if they were a bit more accurate with the chances they created in the first 2 games. But they're in some sensational form now, whilst with Carlton, on the other hand, they are too, I guess you could say. Midfield looking good. Sam Walsh comes back into the side, so just adds a bit more, just a bit more reinforcements into their midfield and their outside game. And 𝐼𝐴 look to be firing at the moment. Probably 𝐼𝐴 a little bit more. 𝐵𝐼 seems to be a bit more of the assister, working high up the ground. But yeah, both teams in good form, so it's a hard one to tip, really. At the moment, Adelaide are actually generating the most scores per inside 50, so whenever they go in there, they are seriously a damaging team, so I think they can really bring it up to Carlton's defence. I think Wiedering and Young have been in decent form, but I don't know, a bit from last week when North Melbourne really put on a bit of forward half pressure and a bit of scoreboard pressure, they seem to put on the points against the Blues. So I think this is a really good opportunity for Adelaide, especially in front of a home crowd, to get a huge win. And it's not against them. It's hard to, of course, go past Carlton's forward line at the moment. 𝐼𝐴 can honestly have another day out and kick another 10 goals together. That can certainly happen, but just Adelaide's form at the moment, I think their forward half is quite damaging. So I'll be tipping the Crows in a bit of an upset game. Home field advantage though, so you never know, they could get it done. Yeah, the Blues do struggle at Adelaide Oval too. That is another statement to add on top. We'll go the Crows at home. Oof, the margin, we will do Crows by 13 points. Now for the Friday games, we've got 2 here. The first one, bit of a curtain raiser sort of one, with Fremantle taking on the Gold Coast at Norwood Oval, 5:10 p.m. A bit of a hard one to tip here because both teams are quite a bit out of form. Both ends of the ground, pretty much in general, they've been pretty poor. So a hard one to really tip here. You probably give Fremantle a bit of the benefit of the doubt because they are a better team on paper. But again, just don't go against Gold Coast because they're the best clearance team in the competition at the moment. They're probably honestly I expect them to probably beat Fremantle's midfield in the contest, potentially. Freo's midfield has been a little bit on and off. The Suns' ball movement and the defending off turnover has probably been their biggest concern from what I've watched. And Fremantle probably look at this game as a game where they could probably control a bit more, you know, dominate them in the marks, the chip mark sort of style, and methodically work their way around the ground, and, you know, try and be a bit more neater with the inside 50 use, because I was all over the shop last week. But yeah, I just think this is a game where Freo can, on paper as well, probably just get the better of the Suns. So I'll be going Freo here. And yeah, maybe a little bit of a shootout game. It could be close, but in the end, I think Fremantle, yeah, get a much needed win here and win by 19 points. Moving on now to the next primetime game. Big game here. The Tigers taking on the Swans, 8:10 p.m. at Adelaide Oval. Instantly, both these teams are a bit injury plagued with key position players. For Richmond, Nankervis is out, Tom Lynch is out, Soldo is still out injured. So who are they going to throw forward? You know, I think 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 is still out as well. I don't know if he'll come back in. Do they throw maybe someone like 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐿𝐴 forward, or maybe Ben Miller, or someone even like a Noel Bolter who can play a bit of a swingman? Could he throw forward too? Whilst for the Swans, both McCartans will be out. So, you know, if there was Lynch in there or another big forward for the Tigers, they could honestly feast on the Swans down forward. But it's an interesting one to look at now in Adelaide, with those specific players being out of this matchup here. As of late, both teams haven't been the neatest so far with their inside 50 use, especially the Swans. The Buddy-centric issues continue. The question does arise, will they drop Buddy for this game? Because if they do, Logan McDonald and Joel Amati, their forwards, have probably been in some decent form. They just haven't been executed in Sydney. Same can be said against the Demons. So they probably have a bit of upside where if they can finally hit the scoreboard, get going, they could probably win big here against the Tigers. But we all know the Tigers, they can get those repeated entries and they can score off them well if they get things clicking. You know, Shea Bolton will still be down there. They might play Dusty out of full forward, so he's got to have a big game here too. But with Lynch out of the picture, who I think is their point of difference, and heavily relying now on the likes of Dusty Munn, could he go back and kick 4 goals and have 25 plus, and especially Samson Ryan? This makes me lean onto the Swans a little bit more. I know they have their troubles going inside 50 as well, but the main thing is, you know, if Buddy's dropped, they can probably get the ball rolling with McDonald and Amati, like they did against the Hawks when they kicked, I think, 10 goals with each other. So I'll go the Swans here. Unconvincingly, I think both teams have been a little bit out of form in the contest, so I think this is going to be a game of whoever wins the contested game, they probably win. But I'll go the Swans in a close game. Yeah, I'll go Sydney by 9 points. Now for Brisbane, taking on North Melbourne at Adelaide Hills, and this is the stadium where it has about 5,000 people. So yeah, when watching this game on the telly, it's probably going to be like a bit of a pre-season vibe whilst watching this one. But yeah, look, instantly, North Melbourne, they're a team to be a bit more respected this year. You know, last week's game was a bit of a good one up till halftime. They really put on the scoreboard pressure. You know, Nick Larkey and Paul Curtis and Curtis Taylor were having some good games. A good first half they had. However, on the other side of the coin, with how Brisbane played last week, their forward half was just electric. An absolute juggernaut it is. And if they want to continue to show that, these are the sort of games they've got to head into, especially way against the side they should be beating of North Melbourne. You know, Griffin Lowe probably does come back in. Yes, he does actually come back in after suspension, so it probably does help, you know, accumulate a bit more of the intercepting game back there. But for me, the Lions on paper, and if they really want to be a serious side this year, should be winning this game. But yeah, I don't mind North Melbourne for maybe a quarter or two, having a bit of momentum and maybe bringing it up to the Lions. But in the end, I think the Lions run away with it and win convincingly. Lions by 41. Next game up, we've got Essendon taking on the Demons at Adelaide Oval, 4:10 p.m. And gee, were the Bombers inaccurate last week against the Giants? I think it was like 3 goals 13 during the second or third term. So pretty inaccurate with it. But I expect them to, against the Demons, really try and hit the scoreboard as accurately as they can, because, you know, there's no room for error against a very, very strong Demons side. They are absolutely on fire at the moment. Big win against Sydney, another 40-point plus win over in the West against the Eagles. But as I just said before, if the Bombers do want to win this game, there's quite literally no room for error. They need to be accurate. Jake Stringer, he was awesome last week, so it's a big game for him. You know, Nick Martin too. I think their pressure, the Dons, especially off the turnover when they give the ball away, has been quite good too. So if they can really, try and pressure the defensive half of Melbourne and really try and put on a bit of points, They could honestly be on for the upset here, but for me, the Demons are probably too strong at the moment. I'm just probably going to be keep on tipping the Demons until they lose. They're probably starting to hit their groove now, convincing the last 2 wins. It's hard not to go against them. So yeah, they're working very nicely across all areas of the ground. Yeah, for me, Melbourne, probably bridge too far for Essendon to pip this game. We'll go the D's convincingly in the end, but probably not too much. We'll go Demons by 28 points. Saturday night game we've got here, yeah, back-to-back Adelaide Oval games, so it should be interesting to see how the turf holds up. We've got Port Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs at Adelaide Oval. So yeah, this is a bit of a rivalry, this one, from the past 2 years, especially 2021, whilst both teams are high up there in the top 4s. So yeah, it's always an interesting game. This one, we've seen both teams have a bit of a share of the spoils. What a win it was for Port Adelaide last week. They head home now with just probably one of their best away wins in recent memory from what I've watched Port Adelaide do, and yeah, they head in with a bit of momentum. The Bulldogs, however, on the other side, big win against the Tigers last week. They really needed that one to yeah, get now squaring the ledger to 2-2. So both teams 2 wins, 2 losses. As much as I don't want to discredit Port Adelaide's win, their inside 50s was a little bit of a concern. I think they were minus 22, so they failed to really get those repeated entries, but they converted well with their very high pressure, especially in their forward half, and their contesting clearance game really got going throughout periods of the game last week. The Bulldogs midfielders are in really good form. Marcus Bontempelli and Jack McRae, and also Tim English is probably the best looking ruckman at the moment. Their clearance game is very good, the Bulldogs, and for me, they're going to have to really heavily rely on those stoppages and get the ball forward into the likes of Norton and 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿, who have been in some sensational form the past 2 weeks. And you never know about Port Adelaide's defence. I know they were awesome last week, but can 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻 and Tom Jonas really do the business again for the 2nd week in a row? But this game, I might go with the Bulldogs away. Probably think a handful of people will go Port Adelaide because of their awesome win last week, but I just like what the Bulldogs are doing the past 2 weeks. I think they're really starting to be a bit better with their ball movement. They're awesome in the contest too, and they heavily rely on those clearances and winning the contested game to generate their scores. And I think their key position players down forward been playing some good footy too. So I'll go with the Bulldogs here away. I think they can get it done on the road. A huge win for Bevo's boys. And we'll go with the Doggies by 10 points. Now for the Sunday games, first one here, we've got Geelong taking on the West Coast Eagles at Adelaide Oval, 1:10 p.m. The Eagles, yeah, you know, the injury carnage from round 3 it was against Fremantle, it will just keep on carrying over really. The first half was quite decent against the Demons. I think the likes of Darling and Waterman and Oscar Allen have been playing quite well. But for me, it was their back half that was pretty poor, turning the ball over and just giving up a heavy amount of scores against a pretty elite Demons side. And, you know, Geelong were probably licking their lips with this matchup here. Jeremy Cameron was huge last week, 7 goals. Their forward half and inside 50 use was awesome last week. And, you know, how much do we look at that? It was, I know, against Hawthorn, which are probably one of the worst teams in the competition at the moment defensively. But yeah, I think Geelong head into this game with some good hopes, and now with that win under their belts, this is where they could probably start to get clicking now. So yeah, I'll go the Cats here. They should be hungry for another win here against a bit of an injury scarred Eagles side. I don't think it'll be a huge win for them. I still have questions about their contested game. This is where the Eagles could maybe feast on them a bit, but yeah, Geelong will be too good in the end. We'll go the Cats by 35 points. Next game here, we've got the Giants taking on the Hawks at Norwood Oval, 3:20 p.m. And this is a primetime game. I'd rather have the Pies versus the Saints in this time, but you know, I guess they may have got to give their shares to teams of Channel 7 times. So yeah, Giants and Hawks. Hard one to tip here. Both teams again out of a bit of form. The Giants, bit of an ugly team to watch at the moment. I thought their effort against the Blues back in round 3 was pretty good, but against the Dons were pretty disappointing. Their pressure, especially in the second half, really dropped off, and their intensity around the ball. They just allowed the Dons to really waltz through and kick multiple majors within minutes. Whilst for the Hawks, look, their first half again was good. It's a hard one to look at, the Hawthorn. They're defensively quite poor at the moment, but clearance-wise, they're still going quite decent, and they can get things clicking forward-wise, but can they do it for 4 quarters? That's the concern. Honestly, a bit of a 50-50 game. Hard one to really analyse here, but I'll just go with the Giants. Benefit the doubt. Better team on paper. And I think their forward half, you know, Toby Green and Hogan Riccardi definitely have the potential to kick a bag and really go big here. And I think their midfield, the Giants, you know, Tom Green's been playing some good footy. I think Kelly's been decent too. They should be able to get on top of Hawthorn here and win. Bit of an unconvincing tip, but they should get it done here. We go to the Giants by 23 points. And final game here, wowee, this is an interesting one. The Pies taking on the Saints at Adelaide Oval. If this was at the MCG, I'd have probably a little bit more confidence in the Pies, but considering this is at Adelaide Oval, maybe a bit more of a neutral game here. It's an interesting one, but yeah, scoring off where it's being played, no matter what the stadium is, this is a huge test for St Kilda. The first 4 weeks were absolutely flawless, but now they face probably a bit more of an in-form and higher-ranked team of the Pies. So it's a hard one to really look at of if the Saints are really able to implement their same game style, and does that match up against the better teams like Collingwood that can really punish you through the guts and off the turnover, and especially on the handball chains that they're so good at of the Pies. The no-ruck situation of the Pies at the moment does really hurt them last week, but in the headouts, and that really generated probably a bit more of the inside 50s in clearances from the Lions. So, you know, a player like Rowan Marshall, who's also really good around the ground, he could really have a huge impact here. But yeah, simply teams that are still pretty much high in form. I know that that loss last week sucks a bit out of Collingwood, but you know, it was just against pretty much a better side on the night. So I still back in the Pies forward half use. They were just very, it was just an unlike Collingwood performance. They just lacked to execute last week. So I think, you know, if they can execute this week, they should be playing better footy here. So yeah, hard one to tip really. I think a lot of Saints fans will be pretty bullish on this game, and they will tip St Kilda. I totally understand and respect that. But as a neutral, I still know about St Kilda if they're able to do it against the top shelf teams of the competition. So because of that, I'll go the Pies. In a close one, I think St Kilda will really bring it up to them. But yeah, I think if Collingwood do execute with the transition and their you know, end-to-end ability, especially a contested game too, I think this will be a heavily contested game. Both teams pretty good in the contest. We'll go with the Pies though, in an end-to-end affair. I think this will be an entertaining game to watch, but in the end, Collingwood get it done by 11 points. So everyone, there are my tips for round 5 of the 2023 AFL season. A pretty interesting round to go over. There are plenty of really tasty matchups, hard ones to tip, but hopefully I can have another successful week with the tips. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to enjoy. Feel free to comment down below your tips too. Love to hear your fellas' thoughts, and yeah, apart from that, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.